I am Ann-Peggy Divine. Welcome to the Divine Design, the podcast where we unfold heaven on earth and reframe spirituality and theology for a new cosmic era. Your journey on human evolution and integration of your divine design starts here. Hello, Soleira! I'm so happy that you are my first guest of the Divine Design podcast. And in the beginning in 2020, when I said, help me, I need a community that holds the same as I want to live in my God source, but I found out that I dropped. So I wanted to be sustainable. And it's like, give me the group or person that can help me be sustainable. And there you are on YouTube. Soleira, I've never heard about you. And then I contact you and I was in a mini group with you. And from there, everything is history. So I adore you. You have really helped me to be sustainable. You and your husband is kind of, wow, you are kind of holding it. So I'm so grateful.
Thank you. I love knowing you too.
Thank you. Yeah. And you have, you are so creative. You create a lot of things. You have created a lot of books, courses, and I see you as holding the new, as the same as I am holding the new. Yeah. And we are in the group Memoration of Maestro. I love you. You are my family. And maybe you can say a little bit more how you come to this embodiment of the divinity.
Yeah, thanks. That's wonderful. I didn't start out that way. I mean, lots of the people that we play with would say they've always known that God, Source, Universe, Creator was in them, and I didn't. And it was probably in about 1988, I was in a course, and we just did an exercise, and it was like the first time I really touched the energetic world, the invisible realms, the creative intelligence of the universe, whatever you want to call it. At the time I said, I think I touched God. So that was my term at the time. And then I went on a quest from there to what was that? Because I had nothing of that before. So I think, let's see, 1980, I was 38 at the time. I'm now 74. So got a lot of years in between of questing and adventuring and creating. So, but now I would say all these years later that for me, it's natural. It's like, it's not something that, we've spent years working on the embodiment, but it wasn't hard. It was joyful, actually. And the more joyful it was, the easier it was to embody it and to see beauty everywhere and to see magnificence everywhere and to love nature and to smile when you see animals. And, that sounds very simplistic, and it's much more than that. The embodiment of, in my case, I would say universe, source. People might say creator, God, divinity, infinite. There are many, many terms for it. But it gives one a completely different way of living.
Yeah.
It's like, to even say it's a new paradigm is a tiny way of saying it. It's like a revelatory new world you live in.
Yeah, so, and when you say that, I just want, because when I sought for you, I wanted, I want to be sustainable. Just the thought of being sustainable also meant that I was kind of seeking for a technique, a kind of step to do it. But actually, it was kind of a shift, total shift. It wasn't a step. It's like going out of all the concept that we have learned. It's totally upside down, kind of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because a lot of people will go and look, like you said, at techniques and tips and things to do, and I should meditate 10 minutes a day, or I should do this or that. And for me, it's more of a way of being, a way of living. And it lives in you and as you. And I would say as well that one of the things that I was mentioning it yesterday, we were on a call together, and I said, that there was a shift for me around the end of the 1990s and going into the 2000s, where I said yes to making the world bigger and brighter. And in a way, that yes also was yes to the universe, yes to the creative intelligence that surges all around us. And my life since then has been just so full of wonder and grace and joy and a kind of what I would call spontaneous power
Mm.
and spontaneous mastery, life power and spontaneous mastery. So it's like I've partnered and got a relationship with and am becoming whatever that creative force is, that intelligence
Mm.
that causes creation throughout the universe. And it now lives in me. And I'm not saying it's like a channel, like at one point I was a channel where I'd get out of the way and something else would come through and I would channel all the masters and stuff. And then one day I said, oh, I think that makes me tiny and them big. And so if I stay tiny, that's not the evolution of us. So I'm going to have to find a way to embody that flow, that wisdom, that ability, that mastery
Mm.
myself.
Yeah.
And so I went on a new quest starting in around the 2000s. It was then I think that I did that. And it has led to today where, as you say, I do anything and everything. I'm like a hyper creator
Yeah.
now, I would say. So I've written 18 books. I've now got the 19th and 20th going. And I source breakthroughs with the Maestros crew, which you're a part of. And I love sourcing breakthroughs for the world. And I think it takes a collective of people to do that.
Yeah.
Each one has a unique, magnificent piece of that creative intelligence. And when you put it together, it's like a kaleidoscope falling into place in a beautiful picture.
Yeah.
And then you go, oh, yes, we could be this.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, it's very different to, oh, I surrender myself and it's thy will kind of thing. It's not quite like that. It's a partnership.
Yeah.
It's a co-creation. It's a dance. It's a living experience. And it's an expression through me as what is uniquely through me, mine to express as that, just like you uniquely express through yours
Mm.
what there is to express as that.
But I want to say, because people who listen who want to create live from this
Yeah,
realm, is I call it heaven on earth, because this is heaven on earth.
yeah,
You said that when you opened for this, it's like a new world and everything just was a game and so beautiful. But when
yeah,
I said yes to this in 2013, what happened to me? Everything became hard and pain, because I had to transform my programming first. So I
mhm,
had a programming from the society and what I have learned. So I went into the dark night of the soul.
right.
And that was really hard. And also, since I have the archetype of wounded healer, I I was so wounded. So I was actually, for 6 years I had to go through this transformation.
Yeah,
And I will not say that it's step by step, but I said yes to it, and I was led to one happening and another. I was so many places and just followed the guiding, even though I didn't know where it would follow me.
yeah,
But I just kind of surrender. Okay, I didn't talk so much to the other side before. I did it sometimes. It's like, no, this is not my path. But after 2013, this became my best friend.
yeah,
And I had 100% faith in it, because every time it led me to more insight, more insight. It's kind of,
yeah,
I was the onion, and all these patterns just fall off. But so I
yeah.
just wanted to say that you open and then everything was beautiful. For me, it was ugly the first 6 years, really ugly and painful. So I want people to know that it also can be ugly if we have pattern and if we have programming that are stopping and our light, kind of.
The key to that, in order if people want to have it be easier,
Yeah.
kind of thing, is how much you can let go and surrender
Yeah.
to it.
Yep.
And it doesn't mean surrender as in you're not making choices, you're not in charge. It's a surrender of what you believe is a real thing in the world. It's a letting go of the identity that holds us tight within. And that for me, I remember when it happened for me, I went through a major shift where I went, "Whoa, I'm somebody else altogether," right? And I remember just for a little while, it was quite confusing, and I became an ultra sensitive, energetic person. And I remember Centaur and I, my husband and I, at the time went to a city to have lunch in a restaurant, and I couldn't sit in the restaurant, and I went out crying before we even ordered. And we were driving home, and he pulled over to a fence on a lovely green field. And I said, "Well, I think I'll never be able to live in the world again." I was really like devastated at the time. And he said, "Well, we'll just make up a new reality together then, and we'll live that." And I was like, "Whew, okay." So I was very fortunate in having a partner who stood with me
Mm.
to create what there was to create when I wasn't in the fullness of me.
Yeah.
And so very rapidly we began to create a different life for ourselves.
Mm.
And at some point in time, and over time, I garnered so much, I want to say strength, but it's more like vitality.
Yeah.
I have, even at 74, I have huge vitality.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's just by chance. I think I run on universal life power as opposed to personal energy.
Yeah.
And I've expanded my intelligence to include the creative intelligence of the universe and of nature and of animals and of, the invisible realms and all of that. And as a result, the reality we live in is stunning.
Yeah.
And we don't have things go awry with us. I did recently have something go slightly awry with a friend. And it was really fascinating because what I've learned to do instead of, getting crazy, I kind of draw in reflectively
Mm.
and think, just let it, it's almost like if I wait, it will turn into something great.
Yeah.
And sure enough, within 2 days, it turned into something great. So that friend and I have become even greater friends than we ever were before.
Yeah.
And we've had the most fascinating conversations, and we've both grown from it. And it was like, oh, that was great. Like
Oh, it looks like you've.
a greater intelligence force shaping life for us. But as human beings in reactive mode, reactive emotional mode, we we don't wait for the good stuff to emerge. So we tend to come at it and push it and jumble it all up and make a mess of it before the good stuff appears. I guess that's how I'd say it. So I've just learned really the emotions come from our very miraculous smart body that seems to have a good understanding of how to evolve us and how to grow us next in some way.
Yeah, and you talk about when I felt that I was kind of empathic, very sensitive. And when I connected to you, I am a highly sensitive and empathic. And one of the reasons I have been so much sick is because I took in all people around me,
Yeah,
all the habitats, because I have for a lot of years talked and spoken about the habitat disease, because we become the habitat kind of the highly sensitive, they feel all their habitat. So
yeah,
since I have been in so many groups and a lot of stuff was in this group, I got all their symptoms. So I
yeah,
have been so sick. I got, and also being a therapist, people came to me with sickness and I took it.
yeah,
So it's kind of, I have seen being empathic as a strength. It's like, yeah, you have a superpower there. But at the same time, working in this group and with you, it's like, okay, it is a superpower. But at the same time, I needed to be kind of in the essence and not go into all the fields around me because it drained me. It was like, ah.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about that? Because I work with a lot of
Yeah.
people that are empathic.
Yeah, I'd love to, because I created a breakthrough in this, both for myself and for others that I've worked with over the years. Um, so super sensitive empaths are actually reading the field of energy
Yep.
and emotion. Emotion is energy. So, um, but what happens is that they're kind of open in a vulnerable way.
Yeah.
And so they receive the diagnostics of
Yep.
what's going on, which is useful. And as you said, you could take on things for people, and most empaths are trying to transmute it, but somehow some of it gets stuck in the body, especially if you're not realizing that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
And what happens is that then you become incapable
Mm.
of doing the greater things there are to do.
Yes.
So I realized that very quickly as I was working. I began to coach people in the early 2000s, and I began to realize very quickly I couldn't do it from this ultra sensitive place. So what I did is I realized I had to go from vulnerable open to wild open.
Yeah.
And wild open is like most people are trying to protect themselves, right?
Mm.
But once you go, wow, like, you're like an emanator of radiance, of joy, of grace, of transmutation, of transformation, of transcendence, of possibilities. And you have this enormous capacity. And it's like your field, instead of being open and you get everything in here, you can still discern at any level you want to discern it. You can still use the diagnostics if you want
Yeah.
to,
Yeah. 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 Mm.
but you have a kind of cushiony field, you know? It's like so it doesn't like come straight in. You use the diagnostics, but now you have more capacity and energy and vitality and the ability to help with things, like really help with things. Especially for me, I mean, not only do that with individuals, but I do that with the whole world.
Yeah.
So I've now, my field now sources the new in the whole world.
Yeah. And I
That's
just
what.
want to highlight that because what you are saying, become more open, because I have worked with so many who are intellectual, very wise. They have so much capacity and know a lot of things and are you really wise leaders who get done so many things. And since they know so many things, this also kind of locked them down to be open for a bigger
Yeah,
experience.
yeah,
So I just want to highlight how this is the kind of the shift. You need to be even more open because we try to protect us with so much knowledge and so much in this brain kind of, but at the
yeah.
same time this is what limits us.
Well, let me talk about it like that for a minute, because there's the brain, logical mind people.
Yeah.
There's the gentle, soft, open heart, love people,
Yeah.
and then there's the "Ah," the wild, open, creative super players who are, working with transcendence, transformation, possibilities, creation, etc. And really, people can choose wherever they want to be in that. But I would say being in any of the I don't want to call it lesser, that sounds judgmental on my part, doesn't it? But let's use the mind only.
Yeah.
Then you don't, and the mind only, it's like a computer not plugged into the internet.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I discovered early on when I was going through all of this is, whoa, there's a lot of stuff to know out here
Yeah.
that you don't know in here and that you won't get from books or learning or school or, videos or whatever. You get it from the universal field of wisdom, knowledge, knowing, understanding, and it's that incorporation. So for me, I plugged my brain into the internet. That's how I see it. And then eventually, as the embodiment we're talking about, I embodied that creative intelligence.
Mm.
So now it's less of a brain, of a computer and an internet, and it's more of a, like the whole, if I was using that analogy, it's like the global internet framework, everything. It's more like that, but it's universal for
Yeah,
me.
and I call it the God source. It has a lot
Yeah,
of names.
that's a good
Like
term. Yeah.
I'm connected to the God source field, kind of.
Yeah, I love that term.
Yeah.
That's a really good term, the God source field. Yes, because it contains intelligence, vitality, energy, power, mastery, understanding, possibilities, newness, and a whole manner of other things, you know? And as a result, once you go this wild open and plugged in expensive state, then you become a radiant, creative, generative force. And that changes everything. So instead of receiving the upsets, you're generating the fields
Yeah.
that people walk and live in.
Mm. Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. And you have said to me, you are going in so many places that are turbulence, but I kind of shine light, and I know, because when I connected to the God source, it's like, okay, go into that, go into that. So I'm kind of guided into fields, and
Yeah.
people say, oh, poor you, because a lot of shit is coming up, the dark is coming up, but it is not poor me, because I just shine light on it, and then it kind of, because I see this is a time as all the darkness is kind of coming up, so we need to shed light on it.
Yeah. Some do. Me, I'm completely different with that. I
Okay.
am just the new.
Yeah.
And then I just let what isn't the new find its way to dissipate.
Mm.
The less I give energy to it, the more the new surges. That's my approach to it,
Yeah.
you know? So everybody will have a unique way. It's one of the things, so I sort of stopped teaching 4 or 5 years ago because I found that once we're in these places together,
Mm.
everybody has their own unique way. And so you can't say, do this, do it this way. This is the way. That's the way you got to do it because it just doesn't suit everybody because we're so uniquely inhabiting that God source field that you're talking about, that creative, intelligent force that we're talking about. And it has to be uniquely expressed,
Mm.
I believe.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when I got the calling in 2013, the calling was I would change system. And it's like what the calling that was given me, I didn't believe in it. I thought this isn't possible. The result, I was presented with the result and said, I don't understand how this result can be a fact. But then I understood, if you want to change system, you need to change people from the inside out,
Mm.
because now all the habitat is kind of deciding what we do, but then we have to go inward and emanating the heaven on earth out. So that was the calling that came in 2013. How can I change system? So I have been led to, I don't know, it's a lot of different system, and then shed light, this is the old way of doing it, can we upgrade it? And someone say, yeah, thank you. And now I was like, are you crazy? So I meet all, yeah, all.
And for me, my approach is to generate all of the new possibilities. And we did that Visionary Women call yesterday, a whole bunch of us. And one of the things that I think happens with people when they have an epiphany, a calling forth, an opening to a connection to the God source field, the creative intelligence, whatever, or to be called even to make the world better and brighter in some way, is probably the first thought of most people is, what? Who, me? Oh, that was certainly mine way back.
Yeah.
But once you're nicely, sustainably embodying
Yeah.
this,
Mm.
life becomes so gracious, so liltingly abundant, so easy and effortless and joyful, uh, that it becomes just so much fun. So, for example, this past week, I decided I'm going to write the book, which I've probably been at work on over the last 20 plus years. And it's called Redesigning the Future of Global Civilization. So one of my friends was like, oh my God. Because certainly in the world of credentials, they wouldn't think I had credentials as a futurist or someone who has big
Yeah.
degrees or anything, research or anything like that, that I could do such a thing. But it's what I've been at work on with all of you for the last 20 years. So I am writing the book, about how we redesign the civilization.
Yeah, I'm also doing not a civilization, but I have started to write a new Bible. This is the Health Bible, and I'm writing, redefining the new theology. How do
Yeah.
we see God? How is our relationship with God? So the God source of us. So it's like, okay, the new Bible is emanate your divinity.
Yeah, nice. I love
Cosmic.
it.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, we can, because I know, um, that I have said yes to come back into another life, future life. In the beginning, when I saw that this was possible, I said no to it because I was in the middle of the dark night of the soul. I said, never, never, I will never take another
Yeah.
experience of being human. But then now I know that I can choose my parents, I can choose my habitat. So I am
Yeah.
already in this life planning my next life.
Wow. That is very cool. I'm planning on sticking in this one for quite a while.
Yeah, me too. But at the same time,
Yeah.
I also work with, because I get a lot of knowledge from my future life.
Yeah. Brilliant. Oh, see, that's the invisible realm. That's what's possible
Yeah.
when you have partner with what I call the invisible realms, which are things like the quantum field of possibilities, quantum entanglement, getting knowing out of nowhere, getting knowing and understanding, getting insights and having ideas and having genius whole books pour through you, and like already made. And that's the invisible realms to me, which have phenomenal power. And I think when we learn to embody and allow the relationship with those creative forces,
Yeah,
that our lives are just enriched brilliantly in so many ways. I would highly recommend it to anyone,
me too.
to be able to live that way. And certainly when you're talking about writing the new theology, one of the things for me around that is I believe it is an experience that every person should have individually.
Yep.
That it's not dictated by some how-tos or a book that was written in some time or some philosophy that occurred 5,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago, whenever. But rather, it's an energetic relationship experience
Yep.
that you have. And
Mm.
once you have it, you have your own knowing inside of you of what that means for you.
Yeah.
And then you begin to kind of unfold, unpack that relationship and find your own expression of it. So for me, it's not about a particular religion or faith or practice or, any of that. It's a unique individual experience that we should all be free to have because they're available to have these experiences,
Mm. But I want to say, because several people have said that what you are talking about, this is fiction, it cannot not be. And also when I was ending the Health Bible, I found you and I quoted you, and read that, people who helped me said that you cannot use this is fiction, you cannot use this in a very grounded book and use this fiction. So what I have met is like, it can't be possible. And just the thought it can't be possible, it's also resistance. But can you talk a little bit about, we are, because a lot of people see this as fiction.
Yeah, for me, it's super practical.
Yeah.
I mean, I live every moment of my life to it. I write books as it. Books, we work together in the Memoration of Maestros group to source breakthroughs in consciousness, to raise vibrational frequency, uh, to embody it in ourselves, to create realities in which we all live into so it becomes a real thing. To me, it's hugely practical
Yeah.
because it doesn't exist in some people's current range of understanding, it seems impossible.
Yeah.
But I would say now, I would say nothing is impossible.
I agree.
I mean, it may not be mine to do, but somebody will do it
Yeah.
sometime.
Yeah.
So I'm wide open to a constant kind of regenerative new possibilities of how life can emerge. So
Mm.
one of those, for example, that I think we're just beginning to open up now is the ability to source our own physical well-being.
Yep.
And that, there are some people I know who are quite miraculous about doing it, especially for others. Um, Healers and whatnot that do amazing things that are unexplainable, really. But to be able to do it for ourselves, I think is one of the next breakthroughs. So, even I suppose if you broke your arm, you'd go to the hospital. But supposing you had an illness that you eventually will be able to regenerate your own cells, your own physicality, your own DNA, which is the DNA part's already happening. I know people who can actually uh, affect the DNA in us. So that then changes something in us in a beautiful way. So
I'm
there's
so
all kinds of stuff that's possible.
okay, Soleira. I haven't told you because in the December around Christmas, I will come with a 13 weeks course, and this is what you're talking about: learning people how they can regenerate their body, being healthy from sickness. So how
Yeah,
can we activate our self-healing abilities?
fantastic. Yay,
So
that's so exciting. Well,
yeah,
I would say I do that pretty much for myself.
yeah,
I believe we all have miraculous bodies, and I think that's the number one starting point.
yeah, yeah,
If you have a relationship, it's just like a relationship with the creative intelligence of the universe. You have a relationship with your miraculous body, that changes the dynamics
yeah, it does.
right there. But also, I think that especially well, I first of all, I believe when we get unwell, it is the universe, God, source creator, pointing us towards something greater in our life. And the sooner you get the something greater, the sooner that illness recedes and disappears, hopefully. I say hopefully because I don't know yet that I've got it at 200% for people, but I'm at work on it, and many people have had good success with that.
Yeah,
So the greater purpose, once you get that, it takes away a lot of that problem. And then, of course, you take care of yourself well. You do all the right things for
yeah.
yourself to be well and as well. But that piece about the greater purpose is just mind-boggling to me. I love it.
But you
Yeah.
use the word, and I want to also highlight this word because you say relationship. I have a relationship because I meet a lot of people. I don't believe in the same as you. We talk about beliefs. I believe in Christianity. I believe in Buddhism. I believe in this. I believe in that. But what I try to tell them, this is not a belief. This is a relationship. And the shift from believing to relationship is huge,
Yes, it is.
huge. This is kind of, we are talking about the shift, and the shift is from believing, because this is mental construct believing, but we shift into a relationship with the God source.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. One of the phrases I started to use years ago is somebody made that stuff up somewhere sometime
Yeah.
and put it into words and into a book of some
Yeah.
kind.
Mm.
And then over years and centuries, people made it into a way of believing, a way of faith, if you will, or a way of living, or whatever it is. But somebody made it up, and they made it up for their time. And so I really think it's important that we uniquely sit in the moment with our own experience, our own relationship to whatever that is, in whatever ways we can find that relationship and then strengthen and enhance that relationship. And then see what it means for us and how we adapt our lives accordingly.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great thing to do for anybody, to have that individual exploration of partnership, relationship,
Mm.
understanding of something greater rather than to, follow a particular script of how that's supposed to look, you know?
Yeah, the God source is for me the I am consciousness, the I am field. We can be whatever we want. We can, if you want to experience this, we become that. We can be a mountain, we can be a dog, we can be the ocean, we can be whatever we want. And we
Yeah.
haven't learned earlier. It's like we are fixed kind of, but we are not fixed.
Yeah, a lot of people would say, "Oh, what? You're saying you can be God, source, creator, universe?" That's egotistical, they might say.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I've discovered of all the people I know who really are embodying that, not a one of them that I know has anything egotistical in them whatsoever. They are some of the kindest, most caring people. They're generous.
Mm.
They're highly creative, intelligent beings
Yep.
who are up to doing good things for the world.
Yep.
And it's just a delight to know them. And I think what happens, see, there's a paradigm of being a human being that's enclosed in identity and certain levels of what we've been taught and beliefs, etc. And that's like this. And then you become like this greater expansive field of intelligence, creativity, understanding, etc. And you supersede ego. So ego isn't in the game once you do that. So not to say there aren't people who will say, I am God, who might be an ego, but I don't know any of them. That's not my experience of people. And
It,
I would,
yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
No, when you talk about ego, because I said we need the ego because that's our form, but the ego in that I do it all for me, kind of. That it's kind of the individual ego.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's the ego that
No,
kind of
this,
embrace everything.
I think in the ways that I know all the people who are embodying this is we're for the world.
Yeah,
We're for all life. We're for the universe and creation. We're for greater things. And what I've discovered in living my life for greater things is what a wonderful life you get to live.
yeah,
It's such a beautiful, beautiful thing, that I can stand at my window and I was looking out yesterday and I watched a very elderly woman trying to get out of a tiny sports car and her daughter was on the other side and couldn't come and help her. And this couple was walking by and the woman walked over, helped her up, and then stood there and held her arm the whole time until the daughter came around. I thought, I know it's such a simple thing, but to me that was like,
yeah,
oh, thank you. That it was such kindness and such care and
yeah.
so lovely to connect with another. She didn't know her. It was just she stepped in where there was to step in and be kind and lovely and to show that there is goodness in the world kind of thing. That's a very simple example, but I love that.
But I also talk about that concept because it has a name. It's called Ubuntu.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's an African concept. It's like we help each other. We are one species.
Yes. Yeah. And I believe that I do think that the indigenous peoples of the world probably knew that and
Yeah,
lived in that in their times, especially because they were closer to nature than currently Western civilization and probably most of civilization today is. But I think that we are coming into this place of embodiment and radiance that we are remaking our relationships to the creative intelligence of and miraculous intelligence of nature and of animals and of oceans and water and of mountains and forests and trees and stars and galaxies and universe. And so we're remaking that connection again, which I think is hugely important.
Yeah.
But in our work in the Meisters group, what we do is enhance and enrich that, not only that relationship, but the capacities of that. So I believe that a miraculous capacity, for example, exists in nature. And I believe that to some degree, up until a couple of years ago, it's been there, but it's a little less obvious, a little more dormant.
Yeah.
So what we've done in our group was called forth the miraculousness of the creative intelligence of nature. And I see that all around me now. You know, I look at the leaves falling off the trees in the fall, like, oh my God, you know, like, I know that's not different, but everything here in England is greener than it ever was before. The flowers are like this tall instead of this tall, you know, they're like, they glow, they're like radiant suns, the flowers this past summer. That's my way of seeing it in that beautiful, beautiful way.
Yeah, and I have shared this example earlier because we have a cat who she loves birds and she take a lot of them. And sometimes I try to save them. And there was a particular bird I saved and I took it out and closed the door. I don't wanted the cat to come. And then I said, I will heal you. So I was healing the bird. And then I said, I know my existence. I know that I only had this period of time. So you don't need to heal me. I can heal myself if I want. It's like, what?
Yeah,
So it was kind of, and I see that I speak with the grass. I speak with everything because we can be in relationship with everything. Like kind of
yes,
the God source is the I am.
yeah,
It's so much intelligent. Everything is kind of intelligent.
yeah. I agree completely. I'm I'm not a person who talks to trees and flowers, really, never in my life, right? But I was over in the Bishop Palace Gardens the other day, and a friend of mine was, you know, loving on a tree or something. And I was just standing waiting for all of a sudden the flowers started talking to me. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
You know, like I wouldn't say, oh, I've lost the plot. No, it was quite amazing, the conversation that I had, because it was nature's intelligence expressing through a flower to point me to something that I was unaware of.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is a beautiful thing. So, however, the creative intelligence of the universe wants to get me to understand things, I am open to that,
Yeah.
you know?
And when we are talking about that, even the worst crisis can actually open the door because I was kind of in my lowest also when my oldest son commits suicide. And 1.5 day after he commits suicide, he came through and we had a long conversation. And for me, this was, I had had a lot of conversation on the other side before that, but that was kind of the biggest, kind of most emotional because I cried in tears and in sorrow. All the emotion that exists on earth kind of came through. So I couldn't stand on my feet because I collapsed and I continued to cry, both happy because speaking with him was so good because
Yeah.
I kind of okay, I knew that he would come true, but only 1.5 day after it was so early, and then he explained what happened, and so even though I went for 1 year to a deep sorrow and grieved a lot, he was actually the one who held me up,
Yeah.
connecting with him. So
Yeah.
he kind of brought me into the deepest sorrow. At the same time, he also helped me up.
Yeah. My journey began when my dad died, and I was a lot of years ago. That was like 1984. No, 80. Yeah, 84. My dad died. So long time ago. And yeah, I had a bit of that experience initially too, but immediately it was like I could feel him standing behind me.
Yeah.
And in my life, I had never experienced anything energetic in my life at all. Everything was normal, explainable, figure outable, like all that kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden, I couldn't explain why I knew he was with me.
Yeah.
It was a presence. It was an energetic thing.
Yeah.
And that opened the door for me to who I have become now all these years later. It was the beginning of the journey for me to what I was talking about, the invisible realms, the things you can't see,
Yeah.
the that are waiting there to assist us, to evolve us, to elevate us, to gift us understanding, to take us to new heights of possibility and creation and genius and all of that kind of thing. He was the doorway for me for that.
Yeah, and I think it's important to say something about that, because my son in 2015 opened the door and he communicated a lot to me. And then 3 years later, my father died. And then I thought, okay, you will communicate with me. And waited, because until 2018, it was kind of the other side connecting to me. I couldn't start it. I felt that they contacted me when the time was right. But then I said one day after he died, I said, Daddy, now I have waited. I want you to talk to me. Can't you connect with me? And I said, I have been here all along. Don't you know that you can start this? It's not one way. It's you you just talk and we're here. It's like, wow. So he opened another. Then I started to decide when I wanted to talk to the other side kind of more than earlier.
Yeah, yeah. It is that regardless of what people believe around this, whether they
Yeah.
believe what we're saying is true or not, there is an intelligence that is existing in the air around us, in the invisible space that we cannot see or touch. But once you make a relationship with that intelligence in any form, whether it's the trees or the flowers or the oceans or the stars or beings who've gone over or, you know, whatever, um, your life becomes so enriched.
Yeah.
It's just an amazing thing to discover because I didn't have it at all. Most people I know have had it all their lives, but I had none of it. And then I grew into it and kept developing it in myself to now where I embody it and can be it pretty fully. I think there's always more, so I'm looking forward to it.
I'm so glad you said that, because it was presented to me in 2015, and that's why I know the divine design. I met my divine design, the God source of me, in
Yeah.
2015. It was in a hypnosis, and Steve Burgess led me, and I was the divine design, knowing everything. I was kind of the God source. And then I said, no, 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 this is too space. I cannot go into this. No, take me back. I cannot relate to this. So I actually said no to my God source creation. It's like,
Yeah.
because the expansion this 5 days has been so big. I had so many past life ancestor, and when I then met my God source divine design, it said no, 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 it's too much. So it's also this, it's our free will, and so I had to say no. I felt that if I said yes to that, everything I knew would change radically. Also, I had to say goodbye completely kind of to the old me, and I wasn't ready to do that.
Yeah, I guess I was.
Yeah.
And that does make it easier. The easier
Yeah.
you can say goodbye and let it go.
But the thing is,
Because
as you said, you have to embody it. Something is to know it intellectual, but to embody it, wow, that's the shift.
well, here's the thing about that I would say to anybody who's listening to this who thinks, woo, do I want to say yes to something so big? You can say yes and then still allow the time to get it to work. It's the saying no that causes the
Yeah,
problems.
I agree.
So it's the saying yes that gives you the added benefits, the added oomph, the added ideas, So, you know, for me, it's been a 20 some year journey
Yeah.
to this. And certainly in the early stages, I mean, I was still doing great things at the time, but I was at the time, I remember in the early 2000s, so I'd made the shift in the late 90s. And in the early 2000s, I was coming up with great new concepts and breakthroughs and teaching and writing books and stuff. But me was still a slightly vulnerable human being.
Yeah.
You know, even though I could allow it to move through me and I was going for it. And of course, then I had a few challenging things hit me. And it took me a little while to unravel them as to why. What was the point of that? And then I realized, oh, it's because I'm still being a sweet, small town Canadian polite girl, you know, in
Yeah.
my 60s and trying to change the world. Like,
Yeah.
and it wasn't like it wasn't like, oh, I'm not going to be sweet anymore. No, it was more like, oh, I get it. I have to stand for it in a different way. And so what I did for myself is I said, I do not need challenges, difficulties, traumas, and upsets in order to grow and evolve. You give me the concepts, I'll go for it. But I'll go for it in my own way, in my own timing, in my own grace. But I'll do it.
Yeah.
You just bring it on. I'll find a way to do it.
Yeah.
And as a result, all that stuff stopped on a dime. And I also, the other thing I did is I stopped being a person and started being an expansive field. So I am the field of possibility of the earth elevating, all together, all life thriving. I walk as that field. That really made a difference for this embodiment of this me as that creative intelligence or God source field.
Yeah.
It makes such a difference.
Yeah, because the God source sphere is beyond time. So it's important to know that that's beyond time and space. So
Yeah,
we can get future, past, everything. So it's like, what do you want to download, kind of?
yeah. And the thing is, I was saying this to somebody last week. It's not like you surrender and then you have no say. You're a creative partner
Yeah.
to this force, which is giving you ideas and genius flow and books and paintings and, you know, whatever it's giving you, new ideas. And but you're a partner to it.
Yeah.
So you have a say in
Yeah.
how it gets expressed.
Yeah.
So if someone said, if I suddenly heard, which I wouldn't, but if supposing I heard, go out and dance on the street to give joy to people, I would be, that is not my expression. Thank you. You can give that one to someone else.
Yeah.
You know, like now, if there was 50 people out dancing the street, I'd go join them. But
I could do that. No problem.
yeah, you would, yeah, that would, there, give it to Ann-Peggy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what I would do in that case is like we've done my gatherings of the maestros where we went to Cornwall and then we went to Avalon and we've done all these things and we dance like crazy, you know, we do all that kind of stuff. But for me, then I would become a creative partner and I would say, what are you trying to accomplish by telling me to go out on the street? Oh, you want me to elevate joy in the world and freedom and fluidity and vitality. Oh, okay. Well, let me see how I will do that.
Yeah.
That fits what you're trying to accomplish, but the modality doesn't necessarily fit me.
Mm. Yeah.
You see what I mean? So I'm a creative partner
Yeah.
with it, which I love.
Yeah, because I also try to explain it to people because I said um I talk about in the group also being in control, but
Yeah.
the word control isn't the fitting one because you are so super aware, you are so awake, so you know that every thought you have creates. You know that
Yes.
you are kind of God's source and you can become whatever you want. So you are so aware and you are so multi-dimensional. So it's kind
Yeah.
of you're really awake. You know all the light that you can create everything.
Yeah. You become what I call super conscious.
You're super
But
conscious.
here's the neat thing about it that this vast intelligence and creation that's thriving throughout the universe. Inside each one of us is a unique facet, a unique gem of sourceness.
Yes.
And each, so it could, the same request should come to millions of us, and every one of us would fulfill it differently.
Yeah, we will.
There is no like, thou shalt go forth and do this. You know, it's not like that actually. It's much more like, here comes the understanding, the request, or whatever it is, the idea for possibility for humanity in the world. And then it touches that place inside you that's your unique essence that was given to you way back when you were first created as a being.
Yeah.
And it touches that in this wellspring of passion, genius, mastery, ideas, whooshes up in you to meet what I'll call the request or the calling forth. And that's why we will all express it uniquely. And that's why I think it's important that we have unique expression of this through each one of us, because it's a kaleidoscopic creation, you know?
It is. And I
Yeah.
see that we have almost talking for 1 hour, but I wanted to ask you one last thing. Being having an ID or having a calling, the difference between my ID because it's mine or the bigger game, that's a big difference. And I have tried to, I have spoken about it, but maybe you can put it in your words, the difference
Yeah,
between being a
that's a
big
great
player and
question.
small. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great question. The brain knows what it already knows.
Yeah.
You have to put new information in, really, to get a new idea, I think. Um, it's like a standalone computer that's got programming in it.
Yeah.
Now, there is a part of the brain that's more miraculous than that, but I think that part of the brain that's more miraculous is connected to this greater sense of intelligence. So when an idea comes to me, sometimes it comes like a download.
Yeah.
Sometimes it comes like a wellspring, like something's touched that unique part of me and it whooshes up. But it doesn't come from here.
Mhm.
It either comes in like this or up like this. Might end up here, but it doesn't initiate here, those ideas, especially if it's a new idea. Like I could have an idea to paint my walls blue, for example, but that's me thinking.
Yeah.
I already know the walls could use some painting and I might choose a color. But if all of a sudden I was like, we could remake how the world experiences joy.
Yeah.
Ooh, I don't think I'd think that. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that comes to me as a possibility that it might, it's being pulsed to us.
Mm.
I call it following the impulses. And sometimes I just wake up like from a dream, and I'll wake up in the morning and I'm in bed and I pick up my phone and like, oh, I know what to do next.
Yeah.
But it's not like it came from my head. It's like it's been brewing in me. And
Mm.
so probably there was a download, there was a calling, there was signs and signals from around me, and it just hadn't quite taken its right form yet. And a lot of people will recognize that state. You know, you're in between the completion of one phase and into the next thing, but you don't know what it is yet.
Mm.
That's where if you can access this creative intelligence or the genius flow, same thing, um, it really helps because that will help you put the meat on the bones, so to speak. It fleshes it out for you. So then you can go, oh yeah, that's what I'm gonna do,
Yeah.
you know? So yeah.
Yeah.
Does that
Yeah, it
help?
does. But then I want to just go because I help people to upgrade their health because people come with the health issues. So if they think, okay, um, what I'm sensing, what I'm doing, is this only mine or is it a bigger? So when they want to activate their self-healing abilities, how can they see that, okay, this is for the bigger, not only my kind of?
Oh, yeah, another great question. As long as you are self-focused, I think it's harder to do. The minute you do it for a greater purpose, it gets easier to do because there are other greater forces at play that are provided to you
Yeah.
to help make it so. So, let's say I don't have them, but let's say I had a heart problem, right?
Mhm.
So I could say, oh, I need to fix that. I'll need to eat better. I'll need to exercise. I'll need to maybe do some energy work on my heart. That's all me.
Yeah.
But if I said, oh, thanks, universe, you're telling me that the art of the world needs a bit of like, boom. So I do that, and this is now completely fine.
Yeah.
Because what the body's trying to say is, Soleira, pay attention. We're trying to get you to do a piece of work. Oh, okay. I do the piece of work, and then this just is okay.
Yeah.
That's the way it's worked for me.
Yeah, and I agree. But some of the people said, but I don't believe in God. I don't believe in the bigger field.
Yeah.
So because they have this fixed belief, they actually don't activate their self-healing capacity. So it's kind of, how can we help people that have, I don't believe in what you believe in. So it's kind of hacking out of their belief and connecting to the bigger field. How
Well,
can we
in
help?
actuality, I think I'm okay with people who say I don't believe in that.
Yeah, me too.
And
Yeah,
because will all find our own way with things. But that doesn't mean they can't access the energetics available in high frequency sources. So, for example, some people go out and have a relax in the sun.
yeah,
And the solar flares at the moment are really raising the frequency. There are things like the bioresonance machines and med beds and all different forms now of higher vibrational frequency, and that's a lot of the healers work with that kind of thing. And I would say just to have an open mind, give it a go and see what works for you.
yeah.
And if it does, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But being closed to any concept at all will limit its ability to have effect on you.
Yeah.
So if you don't believe in healing, then nothing will make a difference unless God, source, universe decides to bonk you on the head and say, "Oh yeah, here we go." But mostly, I think as long as people are just open to try something
Yeah.
to see how it works, I think that they have amazing experiences with it.
I agree, but you know that we have kind of a law or a culture in the Nordic countries, Scandinavian culture, this Jante law. And this
Yeah.
Jante law is like very fixated. So that's why I meet a lot of fixated people, not in a wrong way, but that is kind of, we have to, that's the shift. I also wanted this shift, but it's a shift we have to go beyond kind of.
Well, let me say something about that because the Yentalov is about not being big-headed, not praising yourself, not like that kind of stuff, right? So, but actually, there is such magnificence in each one of us. I think it's designed to keep us from being egotistical and getting too big for our britches. But what happens is it limits our creative genius expression.
It does.
It limits our willingness to recognize our own magnificence, our own genius, our own uniqueness. And I think that one of the things that you and I do as coaches or therapists or whatever practice you're using, we witness the magnificence of people. And once the magnificence is unleashed in a person, that's that unique genius source gem that's inside them. Once it is unleashed, then this beautiful, beautiful genius emerges in them. This creativity emerges, their passions, their visions. It's very practical in terms of how it shows up. But as long as that is contained and held tight, something's missing for that person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest challenge for the Nordic countries. But we are.
Let me just say again, somebody made that up one time.
Yeah. Also Danish man who made it up, but he watched the culture, so he said this is what's happening, and it was in the when the Second World War was, so it's before the Second World War.
It might have been quite useful back in its origin, but what happens is if you just continue it on in society as society is evolving, then it's no longer useful. It's a containment field. And you want to break free of the containment field to have the next elevation of us.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think we need to be kind of free thinking.
Yeah, we need.
We need to be open to new possibilities of how life can be. So, yeah, exciting.
Emanating the God source.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Soleira.
Oh, it's been wonderful. I love having these kind of conversations with you. It's brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the new human. I see it as the new human, the new earth, the new species, all the new we are kind of creating.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to the Divine Design podcast with Ann-Peggy Divine. You can follow divinedesign.it on Instagram, Facebook, X, and TikTok. Join us next Sunday for another Heaven on Earth unfolding conversation. With grace, reverence, and unity, may the path of your divine design light the way. From the divine in us to the divine in you.